I got stuff for you.
Holy moly. I need to get some snakes and release them around my house.
But they love eating people. They love eating kids.
These guys are the scientists of the supernatural, lecturers leaving lessons for inquiring laymen. They are applying the scientific method to a world that baffles science. They are the cryptids of the corn.
Every day that you open your mouth,
I know, right?
I'm more convinced that you're abducted by aliens.
No.
And it just stood up. I mean, it just like kept going and going. And she goes, what the?
These are idiots.
I was laughing reading this because I already knew how you would feel.
Idiot. What part of the story fits your balloon?
Well,
This isn't a UFO. But who else has big black wings and red eyes?
Batman.
Oh, Mothman.
Oh, yeah, Mothman.
Well, everyone, I think we know exactly what it is. So say it all with me. It was the sandhill crane.
Would you try it?
No.
You wouldn't eat it?
No.
Why?
Because they're probably toxic. There'd be a lot of poop in my pants. I've seen a 6-foot alligator go swinging through the air and slam into a tree. Welcome back to Cryptids of the Corn podcast. It's season 6. We're rocking and rolling. Are you excited?
It is season 6. I almost forgot.
I am the great and powerful Mr. E.
You're scaring us, mister. I'm J Clone 71.
71's been coming in a lot lately.
Sound like the 70s mood.
70s.
Yeah.
And who are we joined tonight by?
Ooh, we're joined by a vendor that vends at a lot of the same festivals we go to.
Much of his art is hanging up in my house.
That is true. Multiple prints. We met him at Frogman Fest 2023, the very first Frogman Fest.
He was right next to us.
Yeah. And now he's joining us on our show, Starcruiser Studios, Jeff Kollins.
Woo!
Hey, what's up, guys?
How's it going?
Thanks for coming on, Jeff.
It's great.
Yeah,
Great to be here. I've been talking to you guys for a while now about getting on this show, and
You
finally
can
got it
stop
together. I'm
harassing me.
excited. What's that?
I said you can stop harassing me and make me feel bad.
I got on. Yeah,
Finally.
No,
right.
You mentioned Frogman, Jay.
Yeah.
And you remember how many times we tripped over that one print?
Well, I kept knocking it over.
Well, we both did.
Oh, okay. But you kept blaming me.
You did the most.
Well,
I didn't
right.
do it till the end, and I was kind of getting tipsy.
Oh, here's the excuses.
Well, I mean, I don't wobble until I weeble.
Okay, fair enough.
No,
Yeah,
so
you guys are pretty cute over there. I remember you were next to me and you were fighting like a married couple. I said, I love these guys. Man.
Hasn't
you guys
stopped.
are great.
no, that's a fun festival. Looking forward to the next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. Really good.
So please, before we get rocking and rolling, just shout out your socials where people can buy your art. And everybody at home, like I said, I think I have most of your pieces, including the brand new Ohio map that you just came out with, which, it's Ohio people. I'm not saying we helped, but we may have helped, wink, wink. And, my one problem with the map, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
It's great.
So you can find my stuff. You can buy my stuff on my website. It's starcruiserstudios.com. And I've got most of my prints there and some other fun stuff. I'm constantly updating that. And then you can find me on Instagram at Starcruiser Studios, where you can see me updating when I do new things. And I try to post something every day, something fun, usually a sketch. So that's where I'm at.
And you do not to butter you up too much, I do love your art style.
Thank you.
That old, you do maps and you do like individual prints and all that, but that, I don't know what you call it, the acid wash paper or burnt paper, old paper.
Yeah, it looks
Parchment.
like...
Parchment, thank you.
Yeah,
Old parchment, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just looks like old print, just like something you'd find in an old book when you peel it open.
So when you get the monsters,
Yeah.
like the squonks in the bathroom, there's several other cryptids, and like the Van Meter Visitor one, I love. It feels like it's pulled off of a old newspaper.
Yeah, like a 1950s paper. Yeah.
Like you just like
that. So that was kind of my the intention with this style. I thought about it a few years back about something that would look as if it came from like an old dime novel or an old newspaper article. I kind of had this idea of when I was a kid, digging through my grandparents' attic, like an old trunk, and finding some old articles, or something like from the movie Goonies when they find the map, like that kind of vibe, something that gives things like this history, and they're a little bit worn and antiqued, if you will. Yep.
100%. It really feels like it. I don't know if you've ever seen the TV show Grimm.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's not the same art style, but the old books and finding the Vesson. It's like, that's what I expect them to open on. I'm watching it with my wife through. Right. It's her first time. I've watched it 100 times. I just keep expecting to open the book of Vesson and just see your squonk page or something flop through there, because that's what it feels like.
Yeah, it's got that. It's like a Victorian style. They used to do things with like wood block. They would carve wood blocks and print that way. So I do it in pen and ink. The originals are done that way, but it has that look and feel of like old wood block artwork.
And you're an artist by trade,
right?
But what made you, I guess, kind of pick cryptids or the paranormal? Because you had Crybaby Bridges and all this fun stuff.
Yep. So originally, I've always drawn weird creatures, and I'm into sci-fi too a little bit. But the area I live in, when I moved out there about 16 years ago, I was driving through a town called Middletown, Maryland, on the way to my house, and there was a storefront, and it was called the Snallygaster. I was like, "What in the world is that? What kind of a name is Snallygaster?" It sounds great. It's such a weird name. Mm-hmm. And I went in there, and I discovered this folklore creature, which is sort of native to Maryland, where I'm from, and that got me rolling. I got into that. I drew that. I started doing more things, and it all expanded from there. But that was the big one that started it all for me.
The Snallygaster's always held a special place in both of our hearts.
Yeah, it's usually my answer sometimes when I'm asked what my favorite cryptid is.
The history with it, the love, Germanic history, all in North American history, the stories with the Snallygaster stars,
Teddy Roosevelt,
the Teddy Roosevelt and Bill the hyena. Mm-hmm. It's so weird how much we've been doing this a while now, and how much it keeps bouncing back. And for all of our non-Patreon listeners, it was the 2024 March Monster Madness winner.
Ooh.
Oh, we do that every the month of March is like a bracket system with cryptids and stuff like that. We pit them against each other, and it won this year. So she's retired now, but
old Snally.
But no, and the Snally's such a weird one too. I think that's a great cryptid for people that go off the kind of the line of like the traditional meaning of cryptid with an undiscovered animal by science, or one of the other two meanings. Flipping to the more weird, still biologically, I believe feasible, but when you start having tentacles coming out of the mouth, and it's like a pterodactyl dragon, demon, drinking cow's blood. But yeah,
I also love how I like the connection with the cryptid aspect of it, and then sort of the folklore, where it possibly came from Germany when the Germans came over and settled the area, the farmers. And originally it was Schnellgeist, which meant quick ghost, and of course Schnellgeist changed to Snallygaster, and all that stuff is so neat. It's one of the oldest ones we've got, and it's also contemporary. I mean, people around me are talking about it. It's really fun. The locals will have stories about telling their kids and grandkids. So it's pretty neat that it's gone through history and it's still around.
No, I love the Snallygaster. Yeah, it's one of those. I don't know if it's my top 3, but it's definitely my top 10.
It bounces up there every now and then for me.
Yeah,
I really like it.
It's a special one.
Yeah,
and you started doing that. So, what made you kind of start designing your maps? Which, for anybody at home, they're absolutely amazing. And he promised, I believe, off air, that he's going to do all 50 states.
That's right. Well, now that you bring that up, I just finished the Ohio map of
best
cryptids
map
and folklore, and someone pretty dope helped me out with that. I think you know who I'm talking about. I actually reached out to you a few months back to get some information and some suggestions. I had some questions about some things, so I really have to thank you guys. I couldn't have done it without your help. and so we've got that map now, and I'm really excited. And I think you have one. I think you have one somewhere in your studio, right?
Not hanging up yet. I got to get a frame for it, but it's in the bin from the last. Well, you gave it to me at Monsterfest. Thank you for that again. It's amazing. I love it. I mean, it's got everything from the Octoman to Egypt Valley. You know, all these really fascinating ones. The big and the small. Like Egypt Valley is one of these places that.
It's a weird place.
But people don't know it outside of Ohio.
Right.
Like, if you're super into this stuff.
A lot of people don't even know it in Ohio.
I know, but if you're super into this stuff, you'll know it. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
You'll find stuff about it. Mm-hmm. But when you're in Ohio, like, anybody that ever goes to the Salt Fort Bigfoot Conference or anything like that, Egypt Valley's right there.
Right.
Go talk to those farmers. So my brother is a handicap hunter. Luke, you don't listen to this. I keep trying to get you to listen. I hope you don't listen because I've talked about you a lot. So we were over there, and he was actually hunting in Egypt Valley for a special hunt. And I was asking the farmers about Bigfoot, and the farmers were like, we had tracks one time across the property. We think they were hoax. This property, it's Egypt Valley. It is thicket and water and mountain.
Yeah.
And they're like, we had property like about a mile across, like some kid in Bigfoot like walk. Like, there's no straight path here.
Be one heck of that'd be a funny
That's a
prank.
determined kid.
Yeah.
And hopefully you guys find it.
Right, yeah.
But they were starting talking about, like, it's just a haunted area, or whatever you want to call hauntings, or the weird, like, it's such a paranormal area. So when you had that on your map, it just tickled me. It's just one of those.
Well, I mean, I
areas
think you were the one. I think you were the one that gave me that idea.
I gave you like 80 things.
And it was on the list. It was on the list of things that you were interested in. And to add to that, what's funny is, after I made the map and Egypt Valley's in there, all of a sudden people started talking to me about it. I went to events and people would come up and say, "Oh, I grew up and I knew about Egypt Valley." I was, really? I'd be in West Virginia or North Carolina, and people would be asking me about Egypt Valley. So, I had never heard of it before, but I guess, for the younger folks, it's kind of like a tradition to do creepy things in that area.
It's like me and you talked about it with the hands. You remember that when we did our Halloween special, the semi truck driver's hands?
Yes.
That are still seen going down the road. It's just the hands and the steering wheel, and some people say there's no steering wheel. But it's one of those creepy places. Actually, our first conference we ever did, our first story ever was like turned into us at a conference, not off the air or whatever.
Right.
Turned to us at a conference was a guy that had may have been a Bigfoot encounter in Egypt Valley. And this Bigfoot, he was all shaken up. This guy did not want to be at the Bigfoot conference. You've seen those people. For everybody at home,
yeah,
you can tell people are like really into it, and you can tell people that really aren't.
And this was in 2022, right? First year?
Yeah.
How
we started the podcast 21.
Yeah.
Our first festival 22. Yeah. So you could just tell this guy, like, he looked like he hasn't slept in 3 days. Like, he looked like he was real shaken. Yeah. And he came over to us because we were like one of the first booths right there by the door, made a beeline right to us, was talking to us about, he's like, I was up hunting and I was finding these deer skulls with antlers turned upside down and stuck into the mud. And it was super weird. And then he kept having bluff charges, like with a silverback gorilla. He never seen it, though. So I don't know if it was a really hidden Bigfoot, but he's like, it would get, feet from me, trees shaking, you could feel it rumbling at him.
And then,
and then it would disappear.
I told you, too, that I ran into him again, right?
I don't, probably, but go ahead.
This like 3 months ago at the Bigfoot and Banjos, John Hickenbottom's
You ran
event.
into this guy again?
He came up to our booth, and you weren't there. I just went by. It was me and Jimmy went. And yeah, I thought I told you. But
no!
This guy came up, and he's like, started talking, and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, you go to Ohio Bigfoot conference before, right? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, you have had an encounter like, in Egypt Valley with a deer skull stuck upside down, and his eyes just got really big. And I'm like, well, I've talked to you before. You told me your story back at the Ohio Bigfoot conference. You remember? He's like, oh, yeah, I do remember telling you.
He thought you were psychic for about 2 seconds.
Yeah, I blew his mind. And then he stuck around. You seen how quick he was to get out of that?
Yeah, no, he left immediately. That's the other thing I was going to say is like, after he told us, and he's like, is there any laws against killing him? And I'm like, not in this state. Well, and he's like, then he left.
I think his whole thing's changed because he stuck around and stood there with me and talked to me about an hour and a half after that.
Well,
and he was very I think he's very
our buddy Greg.
Yeah.
That was not saying it was just our show.
Yeah.
But he had a Bigfoot encounter, and it was in Angel Valley. But he had a Bigfoot encounter, and just like me and my family felt, it was horrible. We didn't want to talk about it now. Now he's going to Bigfoot festivals. He's hanging out. He's having fun. And he's got a big stone Bigfoot in his front yard. So that the whole thing.
We're getting people out of the closet for Bigfoot.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. It's once you realize, especially the older generation. Both Greg and that guy were in the older generation.
Yeah, for sure.
You got made fun of, or worse. But anyway, sorry. Continue. It's your show.
No, it's all good. No, I was thinking, as you guys were talking about meeting people that don't want to be there, or kind of have like they're nervous, maybe sometimes because of what they know. When I think Jay, you were at Encounter Quest, right?
Yes.
And there was the woman there, and it escapes me her name, the pilot from the TikTok.
Alex Dietrich.
Yeah, so Alex Dietrich, I wanted so bad to talk to her. It was really busy, so it was hard to get away. But eventually, sort of towards the end of the day, she had like lines of people waiting to talk to her.
Yeah.
But I finally got a hold of her, sort of separate from everybody else. It was just the two of us. And I know the story and I know the background, and so I asked her some questions. And I got to tell you, I got goosebumps because I could tell that what she was telling me and the things she had to say, it impacted her, right? Like she was a little bit worried about what she saw. I don't know if worried is the right word, but
bothered.
She didn't understand it. And I could tell that wasn't, that was genuine. I could just feel that coming from her. She's trying to sort of figure out what's going on, and I think being at that conference was part of that for her. I wasn't able to hear her talk, but I thought that was really impressive to spend some time with her and talk to her one-on-one. It was really cool.
We had some friends that heard her talk, and they said similar things. It's just that was her first public thing ever.
Yep.
That was her. Yeah. So they kind of said the same thing, and it's like you could tell. I don't know if bothered's the right word.
Unsettled, maybe.
Yeah, it's still
unsettled. Yeah.
Like she also said, still had a lot of questions.
She also felt like she couldn't say get in certain topics. Like she was there for a goal, to figure out kind of what's going on, say a certain thing, but she didn't want to speculate at all. She made it very apparent that made a very good point to not speculate on anything. It was just
as
what
a person
she saw.
that's been on many NDAs and still is on NDAs.
Right, you could tell.
There's rules.
Right. Exactly.
You can't That's kind of I haven't talked about it in the show forever, but we were just talking about off air before Jeff got in here about that. I think this is my last year without NDAs. I got to call my parent company before. Yeah, I haven't worked for them in years, but technically, I can still get called for state and federal court cases with work I did and stuff like that.
Right.
So, and NDAs are scary. They make sure they're scary, because if you go against them, it's really bad.
Yeah.
It's just it gets over.
Yeah.
They have so many laws. Prison's the best thing that's going to happen to you. It's just going to prison. But I think I got you off topic. It was my fault. But what made you want to start doing the maps?
I had a friend who requested that I make a map. It was for the Maryland map. That was the first map I did. And so, we did research, and that was kind of like the starting point. And I saw how popular it was. And I said, I should do more of these. I mean, I used to do maps just for my kids, for birthday parties. I would do a map to hunt for little treats and things for the kids. So it's always something that I've been able to do. But that's what really spun off from the Maryland map. And I just, people kept, everywhere I went, people were like, oh, are you going to do one for our state? You're going to do one for our state? And so I sort of went that way. And it's sort of like going outwards from Maryland. So Maryland, Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia. I've got some information. I'm working on North Carolina, and I'm starting to think about maps for other countries. There's some countries that I'm interested in. Yeah. So, who knows where we'll go with it. But I'm excited, and I've got lots of stuff in the works right now. So there'll be things coming out.
And I have to say, I'm very honored you asked us about the Ohio map. It was a very nice feeling, just so you know.
I mean, you guys are my Ohio connection.
There we go.
Because I did, you're like, hey, blah, 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 Ohio cryptids and paranormal. And I I think in like 30 minutes, I sent you a list of like, just off the top of my head, of like 150-ish things. But, you know, I don't know how many you do. Was it like 20-ish on the map? Because you do really illustrated art with each thing.
Yeah, I can usually fit about anywhere from 17 to 20, 22, somewhere around there. They're fairly detailed illustrations that I do around the border of the map. And then they coincide with letters inside the map that show the actual locations. But usually about that many fit on the map before it gets to be too busy. So I'll go for all of the main sort of the big cryptids and folklore stories. And that'll usually cover a state. There are some, I mean, you know, there's so many. If you dig deep, there's probably over 100 in every state. But I try to stick with like the main ones, the big ones, or the unique ones that are different from what you see, you know, anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you did miss a really, really unique one on the Ohio map.
Here we go.
And it's just chaffed my biscuits. It's just
Oh.
now I'm a little drunk, so language is gonna fly. No, it's I've been picking on you because I was like,
watch your biscuits.
In the message. I'm like, the one you must include now that you've asked is the Ohio horned serpents.
Oh,
and the only one that was secondhand. I mean, I'm looking at it like, huh, interesting.
I'm gonna get you a special copy. I'll pencil that in for you. You know, I looked at it, and I know you sent me that message. I dove really deep, and I couldn't find.
There's not a lot.
I couldn't.
So
I wanted, if I'm going to illustrate it, I want some kind of description to go off.
You should have called me,
or else it's not going to. Yeah, I failed you.
No, I just pick it on you. They have a soft spot in my heart. So a cool thing from the 1800s is they showed up on a lot of shipping logs for captains running cargo vessels up and down the Ohio River. And they talked about, so for everybody at home, and most people listeners know, but Jeff, you may not know, do you know alligators are native all the way up to Ohio?
I did not know that.
Yeah, so what would happen is before we dammed the Ohio River and the Mississippi rivers, they would swim up. Most of the time what we'd have is the biggest alligators would come super far north during the summer months, and they can brumate. So like our Toledo Zoo, Columbus Zoo, they leave their alligators out all winter. They hibernate them. It's not hibernation. They do their version of it themselves. They're comfortable in Ohio. They're completely comfortable. When we dammed the rivers, they stopped coming to Ohio. The old ones died, and you know no new ones could come up. So the Ohio horned serpents in these old journals are talked about in the same way alligators, bears, and buffalo were. So native animals to the Ohio River Valley. They weren't talked about cryptids or weird paranormal things. There was even one, the famous story we talk about in the show a lot, was 3 Ohio horned serpents caused a shipping delay in right by Cincinnati because they were about 60 to 80 feet long. They had big, long faces with 3, they called them horns, but they were much more like bumps in the illustrations. It's like a bumped head. And they had 3 bumps, and they kept swimming back and forth across the channel. So the ship stopped and had to wait for them to stop doing whatever this behavior was they were doing. And so we had a whole bunch of these captain logs that were writing about them. Then the Industrial Revolution kicked off and they all disappeared. So the Ohio River got extremely polluted very quickly, and many, many, many animals, fish, everything disappeared. So we think they were just one of those animals. So that's why they're kind of near and dear to my heart, because they kind of match a lot of the animals I used to work with, dealing with pollution and water and stuff like that. I believe they were real because when you look at these old, I'm talking 1800s captain journals, would just be like 3 Ohio horned serpents seen off Port Bow near Port Smith, Ohio.
That'd be pretty.
And that
cool.
was it. They weren't talking it wasn't a big fanciful thing. They weren't it was so common. And then once they started dumping all these coal chemicals in the Ohio River,
chemicals, yeah,
they stopped being
poison the river.
So
I'll tell you what I'll do for you to make up for that missing cryptid in the map. I'll do an illustration specifically of just that creature for you, and I'll do the boats. We'll talk about it, and we'll do something.
Melt in my heart
just for that.
You got to make Justin the captain of the boat. That's seeing it.
I can do it.
What?
I can do it.
I would love it. It's melting my heart because it just, I don't know. We're Ohio people, me and Jay are Ohio guys, and it's just that's one that's just there's like you said, you looked into it, and there's not really a lot there. We were like it was like Library of Congress stuff to even find what I just told you about. So it's just like they disappeared in like 18. I think our last one we really talked about was like 1860.
You got a painting of one on your wall up there.
That's the White River Monster.
Oh,
Arkansas.
darn it! That one always confused me.
No, so yeah, I think they disappeared like 1860s was like the last one. So they weren't around. And with aquatic species, we talk about it a lot. Like, they're the first to go. They don't make it a long time after pollution start flowing. But yeah, so you said the Snally's one, but what are some of the favorites you've done of your art pieces? You have tons, and they're all amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I've done probably close to 100 at this point. I like the weird ones, the ones that people don't talk about much. The two-headed turtle, the giant turtle, the agua.
Uga.
I like that one. Gosh, I'm trying to think. There's so many. The Butler gargoyle is kind of weird and neat. I love them all. I'm doing these things, I fall in love with each cryptid, because I'm researching it, learning the stories. I think it's so neat, and I get into it, and I'm like, oh, this is the best one yet. And then I move on to the next one. I'm like, oh, that one was okay, but this one is the best. So it's always like what I'm working on is my favorite. Right now, I'm actually I have a commissioned work to do a piece. It's more folklore, but it's called Wizard Clip, and it's a town in West Virginia with a really interesting paranormal story. And that's really fascinating to me right now. I've touched on it before. It's in my West Virginia map, but I'm revisiting it, digging deeper and finding out more information on that. So like right now, that's what's really exciting to me. But, in a week or two, it'll be the next thing.
Hey, do you want to share with? I don't know the Wizard Clip.
I don't know anything about Wizard Clip.
So I'll do a little bit of it.
Yeah.
It's pretty deep, and there's a lot of it. But in the late 1700s, there was a family out in West Virginia. They owned a farm, and they were fairly well off. And back then, travelers would come through, and it wouldn't be unheard of to knock on somebody's door and say, hey, I need to stay here for the night. Like, you wouldn't do that today. But back then, it was sort of the polite thing to do. And you would accept. You take them in as boarding, for a week or whatever they were there for. So this guy was coming through town, and he stopped there, an Irishman, and he stopped there, and he got really sick. And he's like, I think I'm going to die. Will you please get a Catholic priest? And the owner of the farm, the gentleman, I don't remember what he was, but he was Christian, but he wasn't Catholic. And he refused to get the Catholic priest. This guy wanted his last rites. The owner, the gentleman refused it. The Irishman died, and they buried him unceremoniously. He didn't get his last rites or any of that stuff, which is, especially back then, that's pretty messed up.
Yeah.
That was like really insulting. Very rare would you do that. Even if you were a different religion, you would give them whatever their last wishes were. So anyways, then the farm was haunted. All kinds of strange things happened. Cattle would get sick and die. There were like chickens or geese. Their heads would like get cut off. There was snipping sounds like clipping, and there would be moon-shaped. There would be like these paranormal moon-shaped cutouts in people's hats or clothes or blankets. Anyone that came to visit, they'd put their hat down, and then as they leave, they'd pick it up, and it'd have these moon-shaped cutouts. So that's where the Wizard Clip came from. And then I guess they tried to get their local pastor to exorcise whatever was going on. He couldn't do it. He said, you have to call the Catholic priest to come. A Catholic priest came down from Pennsylvania, did some stuff. Things went away. They came back a little bit. I mean, there's a lot going on, and it took place over, really the full story was decades. Eventually, the man converted to Catholicism. He gave his land. His will was to give his land to the church, and it's still there today. There's a park there where they take care of people who have, things going on like like addiction and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I've been there. It's a really neat town. It's an old historic town, and it's all built around this legend. It's really fascinating. There's a lot of different books on it, and there's some historic writing on it. I mean, from the people who visited the home, from the priests who went there. So it's really fascinating. So that's it, kind of in a nutshell.
Yeah.
It sounds like one that would. It's piqued my interest, and actually, I've heard of that in some way,
It's
shape,
like
or form.
poltergeist type.
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
a town, though.
Yep.
That's neat. You mentioned the Christian burial, especially in that day. We just did an episode about Ned the Alien, when recording this, not when this comes out. But Ned the Alien was an alien that crashed in Aurora, Texas in 1891?
97.
97. And they gave him a Christian burial.
Oh, interesting.
It was a UFO crash, hit the judge's house and windmill and destroyed his flower bed. The town was like, that sucks. The little guy's dead. And then they buried him and gave him a full Christian burial.
Well, I bet they didn't get any poltergeist activity after.
No, because they gave him a Christian burial.
They passed the test.
That guy didn't get a burial.
You got to give them, like, you can't just unceremoniously throw them in the ground. You got to do something.
Chuck him in a ditch
in a
outside.
river. Yeah, throw them in the river, or the trash can, the dumpster.
Oh, gosh. A lot of river ones.
Yeah.
Oh,
A lot of river bodies, believe me.
I bet. I don't want to know.
I'm blessed. I worked 5 years doing that survey stuff. Never once found a human.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
Our
surprising,
other teams around us always found people.
Oh, and you never did.
I told you the one time I thought I did, and it ended up being a big dead fish.
Right, yeah.
Because we were in a little creek and just smelled rot. You know how mammals have a smell when they're rotting?
Yeah.
And we're like, should we just leave? No, because this could be somebody's kid, husband, wife, So we went and looked, and it was, thank God, an 80-pound carp.
So gross,
Guys,
too.
I got to tell you, I found a dead body.
Oh.
Yeah. In college, I used to work at a golf course, cutting the greens and fairways and stuff. And then in the fall, we would, you weren't cutting, so we would sort of clean up all the debris, like leaves and old, branches that fell and stuff. And they had we had a wood chipper, and we were putting all these branches through the wood chipper. It was really loud. Had my protective earmuffs on. And one of the guys motioned me over. He's like, "Oh, come over here. We're in the woods doing all this." He's like, "Come over here." And the guy was a big hunter. It was like deer season. And I see him standing next to a lump on the ground. And I'm thinking, he found a deer. Big deal. You see him on the side of the road everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Why is he so excited? So I'm not really thinking. I'm walking over, do. And then I get down there and I look down, and it was a man. The golf course I worked at was at a retirement home, retirement community. And so this guy, I guess he had been walking. He was taking a hike through the woods and had a heart attack or something. And he fell there, and he had been there for several weeks.
Oh, no.
Weeks?
Oh, yeah. So that happened.
Oh, wow.
But
you don't want to find, you definitely don't want to find that.
No.
No, at least he wasn't murdered.
What's that?
At least he wasn't murdered.
Right. It was natural.
Yeah, I mean,
but still kind of creepy. And
no,
sad.
it's our neighbor across the street died, and he was an older gentleman. He died in one of our bad snowstorms, and he always had neighbors that offered to shovel the drive. We had 8 kids, so we always offer go shovel his drive, and he liked doing it. He would shovel to his garage, and he'd shovel his little drive. Each section's 6 feet. You know what I mean? So it's not like it was a ton, but he was in his 80s. He died in a snowstorm shoveling, and our other neighbor found him 4 weeks later.
Was he under the snow?
He was under the snow. He's frozen. It wasn't
Yeah.
He looked like he just dropped.
Yeah.
But it was one of our bad winters.
Yeah.
So that the people that lived there, said their names.
Yeah.
They moved out immediately.
Yeah.
I felt bad. I mean, that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
It is hard.
I worked in a long-term care facility or whatever. Every once in a while, you go in and give somebody their medication, and you're like, "Hey, Sue."
Yeah.
Sue.
Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah, but that's different than my boss had found 2 lost kids and I think 3 murdered people.
Oh man,
That's not great.
No.
Rivers, when you're on the river and they just call you like, hey, be on the lookout for this.
So we've got, the Ohio horned serpent in the river. We got dead bodies in the river. Let's find something else in the river we can talk about that's not so doom and gloom.
And you also did, I love your Christmas ones too. Let's get back off.
There we go.
Oh yeah.
Krampus.
So I have Krampus, which is it's actually popular year round. They sell all year round, no matter what, like middle of the summer, people buy as many of them as they do at Christmas time. So that's a really big seller, my Krampus one. And then I did one last year, which is Belsnickel, which is similar to Krampus, although he's not connected with the Christian Christmas. He's a wild man that came out during the winter solstice, and he would go to the towns and rattle their windows, pound on their door. And if you invited him in, he had a sack and he would throw out treats, like candies and stuff on the floor. And if the children were greedy and they grabbed them real quick, he would whip you with these sticks. But if you shared and you were calm about it, you would just go on to the next house. And I did this. It's specific to parts of the Pennsylvania Dutch in Pennsylvania. They were the ones that brought it over and this tradition. And I spoke to some people who still do it. There's still a few towns left where they'll get like one of the parents in the neighborhood. They'll dress up and they'll come out and rattle on your windows and pound on your door, so that the kids can experience that. And I think that's really fun.
Have you ever heard of Krampusnacht in Indiana?
Krampusnacht, yeah, they have it all over.
It was the big ones in Indiana.
Oh, okay.
Where they have the running of the Krampus.
Okay.
I kid you not, it's like
check that out.
6,000 Krampus, whatever. We were gonna go last year,
but
it was so bad. So a group had pushed against it, saying it was demonic. And anybody that actually knows the legends knows what it's about. Like it is, like you said, it's a Christian thing, like old Germanic, European Christian thing, but it's a Christian thing. It's not demonic. It's about teaching your kids good morals.
Right. Yeah.
And so they canceled it. So me and Jay were like, "All right, we're not going." And then they brought it back like 3 weeks later when it was too late.
Yeah, it was just
which I get why they did it, because it's been going on for like 11 or 12 years.
Yeah, it was just.
So you wear stickers, right? And the sticker says, basically, it's green, yellow, red. Red's no participation. Like the Krampuses, it won't mess with you. Like you don't want anything to do with it. You're just there to whatever. Yellow is like light participation. Like they're gonna hit you with a couple sticks or whatever, the light brush or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
Green is the full participation. Like they're gonna throw you in the sack and run down the street with you. There's like 4,000 or 5,000 Krampuses.
Wow.
It seems like such a fun thing, and the whole town kind of gets behind it.
Except for those.
Yeah.
Except for 8. Never mind. I was gonna say something. Now I don't want to say it.
Yeah, better not.
But 8 people.
Yeah.
That are really against it for some ungodly reason. I mean that literally.
But
yeah, but have you ever heard one? I think would be great in your art style. What's the rapping horse head?
The rapping.
Oh yeah. It's like a skeleton head.
Yeah.
horse?
So she's a horse. She comes to your door. She's a horse. She comes to your door, and knocks. And when you open the door, it's not rapping in the traditional sense, but it's like a rhyme battle. And if you lose, she gets to come in and have beer and cheese. And then if you lose, or if she loses, she gives you gifts.
What folklore is this derived
You know what?
from?
It's actually because you missed every Christmas special we did with Nick and Jake from America's Scary Land.
Did I?
Yes, because we did the same thing every year, where I would be her, and they would be the people, and we'd have a rhyme battle and see who won.
Nice.
No, so yeah, that's a fun one.
I have seen it. I do a Krampusnacht in York, Pennsylvania every year, and they do like a parade. Everybody dresses up, and I saw the first time I did that a few years back. I saw several people in that costume. I was like, "What is that?" And then people told me about the tradition. I think that's really neat, and I will probably do an illustration this year of that. I think that'd be fun.
Chris? Yeah, no, Jay's going to look up what it's called. because it's not La Llorona because that's the Mexican weeping woman. But it's like that. It's like a double L.
Okay.
Is it Si Juanaba?
Show me the picture.
I don't know. That's the first thing that popped up.
Maybe rapping horse for Christmas.
Oh, that's not what you told me to type in. You said horsehead demon lady.
Oh no, rapping horse Christmas.
That's a
It's
little
usually
different.
all white, right? Like
Yeah, she's
like
an
a
all white. And it's
Yeah.
not a scary. It looks scary, but it's not supposed to be a scary thing.
I don't know how to pronounce
Right.
it, but Mary Lloyd?
Yeah, Mary Lloyd. It's Mary Lloyd. I know it's not spelled Lloyd,
Right, okay.
but it is Mary Lloyd.
Okay. Yeah, this is it.
Yeah, no, yeah, and they rap or the rhyme battle.
Right, yeah.
Rap back and forth. No, so sorry, we're bad. You listen to the show. We're bad with off-topic things. It's what we do.
It said it was the custom first was recorded in 1800. 1800.
Well, they didn't have paper before.
Wait, what?
That's a joke. Everybody home. That papers are 10,000 years. No, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Bunch of drunk dads wearing a dead horse's head. Be like, I'm gonna rap Bill's
rhyme
kids
battles, yeah.
to see if I
Slam-
get
I'm
this
definitely
beer and
doing that.
cheese.
Yeah.
I could
Definitely
do
gonna do that this year. I'm gonna draw that one.
that'd be funny.
Yeah.
We should do that again, like
Star tradition.
yeah. But it's us against like the horse.
No, I think it should be us with the corn head on. And be like, we come rap you for your corn whiskey.
Oh yeah, there we
you
go.
No, but you said before we asked you about it, you may or may not have a paranormal encounter of some kind. We're going to ask you about.
Yeah. I've had a few. There's one that happened at my house. I live in a town basically on the outskirts of Antietam, the Civil War battlefield of Antietam. And that was the bloodiest single day in military history in the United States. So lots of casualties. Don't quote me on this, but I think it was somewhere around 22,000 casualties in one day.
Jeez.
So you can imagine if there's some kind of like, ghostly energy, it might be in this area. And my town, being on the outskirts, a lot of the houses, the older houses and churches were used as hospitals, field hospitals. And a lot of soldiers, of course, didn't make it. So keep that in mind. So I live in this town directly across from my house. My house is newer. It was built in 1951. But directly across the street is a stone wall and a farm that is I think for sure pre-Civil War. So it was there during the Civil War. And directly across from me, the house is sort of to the left, but directly across is sort of like the garden of the farm, where they plant like these beautiful flowers and stuff. So imagine, I look out my window. I have windows on my door. I'm looking at the stone wall, and then behind that, this beautiful garden that goes really far back, and then woods behind that. And my sister was visiting she lives in Philadelphia, and she came down to visit. And we're getting ready. We had a long day. We're getting ready to go to bed, and she's staying in the family room, which is right where that front door is. She's getting she's going to sleep on the couch there. And we're talking. It's dark. And I'm sort of talking to her and looking out the window at the same time. And in the pitch blackness, I see directly across from me this light, this glowing light. And there's nothing there. There's no house there. So I'm thinking, okay, somebody's out there with a lantern or a flashlight looking for something. So I get out my binoculars and I'm trying to focus on this light, right? And you know how, like, when you're focusing with binoculars, in and out, the focus will change. It'll get blurry. It'll get sharper.
Mm-hmm.
But no matter what I'm doing, this thing that's floating, this light that's floating there, it won't focus. As far one way and the other with binoculars. I just can't get it to focus. So I kind of open the door. I walk out, stand on my front porch. It's still there. I'm talking to my sister. She's easily scared, my older sister. And I'm telling her, hey, I think this might be, what do you think? This could be like a spirit or something across the way. So we watched it for a good 5 or 10 minutes. It didn't really move much, but I'm telling you, there's nothing there. Eventually I think the light went out. I can't really remember, but we were so exhausted, we went to bed. I think she said she didn't sleep the whole night. She was terrified. The next morning we looked out there. I took my binoculars out to see if like maybe somebody left a lantern. I mean, there's nothing there. It's just garden and woods. And where I thought it was not all the way back in the woods. It was like in that garden area. So I like to think that maybe it was some kind of a spirit of, a Civil War soldier or something, who knows? Or maybe some kind of alien thing was hanging out there. But I definitely saw something. I don't know what it was.
Also,
Like an orb or something, maybe.
I was gonna say
like an orb.
Yeah.
Yep. But it was bright. I mean, it was a sort of like a bluish color.
Huh.
And like not like something where you see and you're not really sure it's there. I mean, it was there. You could see it. And it didn't really move that much. It stayed where it was until it went out.
So when you say like lantern or whatever, did it look like a flame?
It looked like a round or maybe an ovalish light.
Okay.
So
it can sound like the will of the wisp. You know what I mean? Like they're generally blue. When you said blue, that's what I jumped to, because almost Australia, Europe, and even some African legends. And I'm using the will of the wisp as a conversional term.
Catch all.
Yeah, catch all for that thing. Is like a blue light. So a lot of times, depending on who or where you talk to, kind of deal, they're good, bad, and different. And they're kind of like fishing lures, like from anglerfish. So they gave you the show for 5-6 minutes, and then you didn't bite, and they turned off.
Yeah,
I don't know though. No, like you said, with the soldier, like the battlefields, especially like when you're talking about, is literally so bloody and destructive.
There's trauma there.
It was a Civil War, right?
Scar.
Civil War, yep.
Which is, I mean, it's not. Civil War is just, as far as America is concerned, brothers fighting brothers, cousins fighting cousins. Mom is even sometimes son and father killing each other, which we have documented. It was not only a bloody battle, but there's something different with the emotional level when you start talking about killing kin.
Yeah.
For something like that, I don't know what that causes, but it does something to the earth, right? It has to. Not saying we humans are as special as some people think. I think we are, but
I do too.
But that has to do something, that much energy.
What
do you think?
Gettysburg. I mean, there's multiple examples of that phenomena, but I mean, it's just.
I feel like
awful.
it almost sears something like searing a steak. It sears it into the land. This energy or something. I mean, I can tell you that when I tour Antietam itself or the areas around it, I don't know. I mean, it could just be my imagination, but there's definitely like this vibe that you get, like there's a memory of something there. It's really interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever experienced. I've gone through like places like where it's woods where they just feel like creepy or heavy, or it's just that odd feeling. But I don't think I'm one that's like too sensitive to that stuff that I know of. But I've never seen like an orb or a light like that almost puts on a show for you. I've never quite experienced that yet. Hoping one day.
I don't know. I mean, it could have been. There's so many things it could have been, right?
Right. Yeah.
But, whatever it was kind of neat. And I've had some other experiences too, but nothing with cryptids. I would love to see, Bigfoot or like I don't know, like an ancient pterodactyl or something like that.
Or a snallygaster.
Or a snallygaster.
Maybe one of its eggs.
Kind of stuff. What's that? Or the eggs?
Yeah, snallygaster eggs. Just having one of them would be good enough.
Right.
I would enjoy that too. The only thing I've seen too is like a white thing. I may have seen the white thing. I think we've talked about it on here.
You were also abducted.
But other than that, I also haven't seen. But I love all this stuff, and I'm a believer in it. I believe, like you said earlier, you talk to somebody that has experienced something, and you can just tell, when they're being genuine, as opposed to somebody that's just likes telling stories.
Right. And to a certain extent, the stories are just as great anyways. Like,
absolutely.
Sometimes sometimes I think to myself, does it even matter if this random cryptid, somebody made up this story? Well, it's a super awesome story, and I love it. I get to illustrate it. People get to hear the story. So at what point does it matter if it's real? I mean, it kind of is because somebody created something, if they did.
Right.
You know, like to me, I just love the stories, whether they're real or not. They're great, and I feel like each one deserves to be like a Steven Spielberg movie. You know, they're really fun. I love them.
I think the Hodag company's working on. Last time we talked to them, they're working on that Hodag horror movie, right?
Yeah.
No, they are.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah.
And but the Hodag is one. Okay. It's some people's favorite episode we've ever done. Some people's least favorite episode we've ever done.
It's not good.
It was our drunkest episode we ever done.
What's the only one we done like that? Like
that
that?
Intoxicated? Yes.
Like that.
Hodag. No, but like you're saying, I think that's kind of walking the line between, I guess my words I kind of use as folklore versus cryptids.
Yeah.
And like you said, I guess it depends on the person whether that matters or not.
Yeah, it doesn't. For what I do, the part that I enjoy.
Yes.
I mean, I love the stories. You know, I think that's like a subsect called like lumberjack lore, right?
Lumberjack lore, yep.
But it's still a cool story, and I love the fact that it's part of American history. It's not just the story, but the people that were there. What were they doing? What was going on in history? And then, like you guys know, if you go to these events that we go to, you know, the best part is interacting with other people and telling these stories
100%.
and hearing things, and everybody's in such a good mood, and it's that's why I love those stories, because it brings people together, gives you new ideas, and they're fun. They're really cool.
Yeah.
And it helps when you got a good artist around that can bring these things to life.
I tell you what, I've had so many people asking about the squonk in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Because it's a cool one with the squonks being hunted and stuff like that.
Make sure they know it's a squonk that Jeff drew.
It is. Oh,
Yeah.
It says,
Right.
he's got his signature on it. But
No, I just mean just so everyone listening knows.
oh no, it's Starcruiser Studios squonk being hunted by two hunters.
Hanging in the bathroom.
It's hanging
See it every day I
So
come
that
in
was
here.
that's part of that lore. Like
Yeah.
when I do my illustrations, I don't like to just do the creature. I want to do the story, as much of it in the illustration of the story behind it. So like I said, that sort of shows the lumberjack lore of it, that they hunt them, and if you see it, it turns to water, and you see the puddles of the footprints that they would track. And so that's more the story behind it and not just the creature. And I try to do that with all of them. I try to give you little tidbits of information in the illustrations that tell a little bit about the story.
I have a lot of your art. We have a lot of your art.
Yeah, I mean,
And I know this is the only room that's lacking in it because he made it into the rest of the house.
yeah, I know it's everywhere else.
Because just the sizes of the pieces.
Oh, I know they're big.
Yeah, but which is great. But they're not just the cryptid. It's scenes, right? It's like you're
Right.
saying. It's like a snapshot of whatever that lore is. Like you said with the squonk, the snally. The snally is right by his still, which everybody hasn't listened to our Snallygaster episode. That's what killed one of the ones that was rampaging around the country when Teddy Roosevelt was going
Right.
to kill it. Some newspaper said the still's fumes killed it. Some said it ate so much mash that it died. Which, if anybody know, that was a common thing for black bears at the time. Is they literally find this fermented the old mash, and they'd sit there and they'd eat and eat and eat because it tastes good. It's sugary, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it tastes good. So you eat it and eat it, and they end up dying from it. From alcohol poisoning and stuff like that,
Oh,
because
no.
their bodies are built towards to be attracted to sugars because
Yeah.
sugars are super rare in nature.
Right, yeah.
So they were eating it and stuff. So depending on what story, but you see all of those play out. The Van Meter Visitor up on the fighting these guys up there, and I love your Van Meter Visitor too, which is much more like
He's climbing up on a
insect-like?
telephone pole. He's climbing up on a telephone pole. He's across from the bank, and the gentleman is there with the shotgun. And so those things are in the story.
Yep.
yeah.
And in fact, I know for a fact that my Van Meter Visitor print made it into the hands of the person who owns that bank currently from that story.
Oh,
So
no
the bank
way.
so the building that's in that drawing that I did, the person who owns that has the print, which I think is great.
That is awesome.
I mean, that is something you just can't buy. I mean, it's we've talked about it, you know, on our side of this kind of stuff of reflections and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, and we've kind of danced around it tonight, but doing this stuff and knowing the people we know now,
It's crazy.
Like, I grew up watching, well, you know, Lyle and Ken. And I was just talking to Ken at Monster Fest and Lyle at Monster Fest, and
Yeah.
you know, we've had a lot of fun with Lyle and Ron Moorhead. We've had so much fun. You know,
Yeah.
if you would have asked me 4 years ago, was I ever gonna be hanging out with Ron Moorhead at 2 a.m. talking about Bigfoot?
right.
I'd be like, no.
But there you are.
And they're all great. Everybody's great, and that's, you know, kind of
everybody's so nice. Such good people in this community, you know.
100%. That, I mean, you can count your fingers the people that have not been fun to be around.
Yeah, it's not much.
Yeah, and which is great when you start doing the big festivals and you start hanging out and doing these things as people. You know, it doesn't matter, a vendor, a patron, a speaker.
It's always a high energy, positive energy, good time.
Like, yeah. Kenny Irish, you know, all these people just always been super nice when we first started speaking and stuff like that. Everybody was just so positive. You know, it's a scary thing when you're going on stage and sharing it with Ron Moorhead and Lyle Blackman.
Right,
you know,
yeah. Or introducing people like...
yeah, but it's a scary thing, and they're all just like, yeah, you know, we're going to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're super cool. You know, Cryptids of the Corn, man, those guys, those are the ones that I really enjoy the most. When I see them in a show, I know it's going to be fun.
I've heard there are a couple drunk dorks.
Yeah.
Dork's probably an accurate word.
No, I got 2 more questions for you. We're at right about at the hour mark. I got 2 more questions for you as an artist.
Yeah.
What has been your most difficult to draw, you know, make the art of cryptid?
Ooh, let me think on that.
We can talk while you're thinking. What are you going to guess?
What's
And I'm not saying a whole map or nothing like that. You know, I mean like an individual, because you know a map takes a ton of
one.
work.
I know what it is.
Oh,
But wait, before you go, let's guess. What do you think it was?
Yeah.
for him to draw?
Yeah,
Or like that would be just in
what
general.
was the most difficult? You know what the one he did was the most difficult.
Oh gosh, I don't know.
I have a good guess.
I'm just gonna go with the Frogman maybe because we have that on the shirt and I like that one.
I love the Frogman art. We even mentioned. Well, I don't have the Frogman shadow box, but I have the alien abduction shadow box.
The shadow
you make,
box, yeah.
which is getting moved because when we got our new table, it covered it up.
Oh, okay.
So it's getting moved. But anyways, you said Frogman?
Yeah.
It's Frogman art. It's awesome with the wand and
Yeah.
you know the symbols. I'm gonna guess the indescribable Octoman because it's indescribable.
Ah.
That's
Clever.
not just because. Yeah, I love your Octoman, but you know it's one of those ones. Just it's a blob with tentacles.
Right, yeah.
So what is it, Jeff?
Dude, you got me, man. I didn't think you'd guess it. That was it.
Are you kidding? He's a cryptid
I'm
expert.
I'm not even joking. So, and I'll tell you why. So, tentacles are really hard to draw to look natural.
Oh man.
You know, and I'm really. It took a long time to get it the way I wanted it to look. I'm pretty happy with the way it looks on the map. But the other trick is when you have another artist who's done a really good job, you don't want to copy.
Right.
You want to do your own version and be unique. And that was really tricky because Easton Hawk, I don't know if you know him.
Love
Yeah.
Easton.
We have a
Easton
couple
and
of
his wife
prints.
are great.
Yeah, so he did the indescribable Octoman,
Yep.
and I think he did a fantastic job. And I'm like, man, I got to do it different. You know, it's got to be good, but it's got to be like my version. So I don't want to use any of the stuff that he did. I want to do it different. So that was a challenge too. You know, the tentacles, and then the fact that like I didn't want to repeat any of the things that he had, and a lot of the things that he had were great ideas. So it was really hard not to like try to steal any of that stuff.
Right.
But I didn't. I went in a different direction.
And I love it. I love the indescribable Octoman you did for the map.
Thank you.
Because it's like we've all joked about, it's indescribable. But we did, in my opinion, it's probably one of my, you know, I have a lot of favorite episodes. We've done around 300 public and around 200 private episodes with Patreon. So it's hard to pick out, you know, favorites. That's one of the more memorable episodes that we've done.
Is it because I figured out what it was?
Yeah, it was. No, it's because it had so many sightings and it was just everybody was just had a hard time because it was just a blob. And the tentacle thing wasn't like octopus tentacle, it was just like phalanges hanging off this creature.
Yeah.
And then it died in Kentucky, and then they probably ate it because it's Kentucky. Love you, Kentucky.
We're all
My
from
wife's
Kentucky.
from there. Rachel's from there.
We're from Kentucky. I mean,
Technically, yes, the Anglins are from Kentucky. The
Everyone
Wolpers
from
are
this town.
Kentucky.
Everyone.
Ada is from Kentucky. We all moved from Kentucky to get away from Kentucky, and then we all settled in the same place.
yeah, absolutely.
It probably tasted great. It's like calamari,
I don't think so. I'm going to venture. I'm going to shake my magic 8-ball. It says answers point to not. No, but yeah, I guessed it right. But like you said, it's hard. Easton's is great too. I actually think that's the one I have. It's in the other room. Is the Octoman from Easton? I have 2 of Easton's prints, and it's the Octoman and something else.
We have the Kappa. I bought the Kappa off.
You have the cap. I'm saying in this house.
Oh, gotcha.
I have 2 of Easton's. I can't remember what other cryptid he did that I fell in love with. But the Octoman, another Ohio, Kentucky one. And I think you nailed it because you have this giant, essentially, with a couple eyes on top, the big mouth, but the tentacles, because that's when the semi-truck driver, seeing it cross in front of the road in front of him, that's basically all he could describe. It was like a mound of flesh with some tentacles and what he thought were their eyes.
And he said it was really big. Like, that was what I stuck
Really
with,
big.
that story of the truck driver. He said it was like maybe 12 or 13 feet tall. It was huge compared to the truck. So I was like, I got to make it look like it's massive, like it's got some weight to it. So I really worked to get it, to be sort of like the size of a hippo, like just massive and sort of blubbery and with the eyes on top and the vertical mouth. I thought that was a fun touch.
I loved it. All right.
Thank you.
I got one more question, and then if you got any questions, you can ask them. But I had 2 artist questions.
Yeah.
What was your least favorite one you've ever done, or what was one you may want to revisit if you have one?
Oof. I'll tell you what. I want to revisit all of them. It's sort of like it's like the fun and difficult part of being an artist is like once you finish it, you see it and you're like, I want to change that. I want to do that different. So like, shoot, I'll redo them all, and I may at some point. I've already done. There's several that I've done multiple versions of. I think the Frogman I've done like 4 or 5 versions. So yeah, I mean I'm down to redo them all. If there's one, I don't know if there's one that I didn't like doing.
That's
some
good.
of them are challenging. But like I said, I do this stuff because I love it so much.
And you can tell. I'll tell everybody at home right now. You can tell you have the passion for it. Because like you said, you've already done 100 of them.
Yeah.
And you either get bored with it or you love it.
I love it.
I think in this podcast stuff, I think that's a lot of podcast problem. Is that when you do 100 episodes or 200 episodes or 300 episodes, you either get bored with it or you're still just as in love with it as you were.
Yeah.
And
so far, I think it's just as fun.
Well, it is for you because you can sit there and listen and have fun.
Act like an idiot.
Act. Yes. Do you have any questions for Jeff?
Well, I mean, I just want to say I really appreciate the art, but I appreciate the camaraderie when we get together at events that we get to have together. Just want to put that out there. That is very enjoyable, and that's what makes all these events fun going to. But
absolutely, man.
And right, it's the best part. And like I used to draw, or I went to school. I went to art school for a couple years, and so I love seeing all the art at the festivals and stuff, and I just absolutely love it. So when I see your booth pop up at one, I'm always excited to see the new piece or something because they're all good. They're all good.
Sweet.
Not a dog in the bunch.
Huh?
Not a dog in the bunch.
That's right. What?
That's okay. That's from my grandpa that's dead.
Oh yeah.
Well, I guess both my grandpas are dead.
I don't know if I've heard that saying.
Not a dog in the bunch.
Yeah.
It's probably not a great saying. Now that I think about it.
Okay. But
I'm not even going to explain what it means. Actually,
let's not.
You know what?
Not a dog in the bunch.
You know what? I take it back. It's just something my grandpa used to say. And now that I think about it,
I understand what it means.
Probably
now.
not good.
I understand what it means. Yeah.
I apologize.
All very good paintings or drawings.
Well, the art's great. Yeah, it's prints. Like you sell prints. Do you ever sell your originals?
I have sold a few, but I hold on to most of them. I think maybe someday I will. Yeah, so maybe I'll sell you the ones that I do of you on the river with the horned snake.
Horned serpent, but yes.
Horned serpent, thank you. Yeah.
No, but yeah, no, I'd buy them.
I know you would.
I just have a few original pieces of art. I love art. I love collecting art. I'm not a great artist in any way, shape, or form. My grandma was an awarded artist. She was in a wheelchair. So what she would do is paint, to kind of escape things. And she oil painted a lot. I mean, tons and tons. She did several different forms, but I have a lot of her oil paintings. So every room in this house has art, and now it's become a lot of it's cryptid art.
Yeah.
It's either
94%.
It's either cryptid art or a fish on the wall.
No, there's a lot of fish hanging up on the walls too. You come to my house, you know my personality
Very quickly.
very fast, because there's a bowfin hanging up next to a Bigfoot painting.
Right, yeah.
I'm not joking.
It
That's
all
the living
fits,
room.
but it all fits together.
Yeah. So, anything else for Jeff?
Oh no, this has been great. I very much enjoyed the stories. We're gonna have to do this again.
I think we should have him back on for which cut was that? What it was called?
Oh, Wizard Clips
Wizard Clips.
or Wizard Clip.
I think we'll do a Patreon exclusive with Jeff
Okay.
on Wizard Clip.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that. Love
And-
to do it.
Well, we'll make it a day of it, and just have some fun with it. But before we wrap it up, please go back through your socials again. And for everybody at home, I put all the links always in the description for these guys. If you please support them, these guys are our friends. They're great. We love them to death. You've heard me already say, we have probably 500 pieces of his art hanging up between our two houses. So support him if you can.
Cool. So I have a website where you can buy my prints and other artwork. It's starcruiserstudios.com, and you can also find me on Instagram at Starcruiser Studios. I just want to thank you guys for having me on. It's always so much fun and a blast to see you guys and hang out and talk. I love it.
Yeah.
We love you too.
Yeah.
We love you. Even though you said it, we love you.
I love you guys.
Yeah.
And I love doing doing this stuff.
Right.
love the
The experience of us all together.
Yes.
That's like a girlfriend that's like not really into you. I love the experience of you.
Of you. I would say, all right. That
You
sounds
did
pretty
that.
good.
No, you did that from some of your stories.
Me?
Yeah. All right. So, Jeff, how we like to end it. But for all of these people at home that may not know, basically what we're going to do, we're going to count down from 3, and then we'll all scream bye into the microphones. The outro will play. You ready?
Yep.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, thank you for listening to Cryptids the Corn podcast. Remember, the best way to support the show is share it with a friend. But if you are craving more of the J clones
And more from Mr. E.
there's always extra content on Patreon.
And our paid member space on cryptidsofthecorn.com.
We'll catch you next time with more exciting, fun, and informative information. Bye.